The morning started quietly, with soft sunlight spilling into the small room where the bride was getting ready. She moved slowly, savoring each moment even though her heart was racing. It was the day she had imagined since she was a little girl. The day she would promise her life to the person she loved most. The room smelled faintly of flowers, a mix of roses and jasmine brought in specially for the morning. A few close friends sat around her helping with the last touches, adjusting the dress here, tucking stray hairs there. Laughter filled the space, but it was delicate, almost like it was trying not to disturb the calm of the morning. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror, seeing not just herself but the hope, dreams, and excitement in her own eyes. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the delicate lace on her dress. Everything was perfect, at least on the surface. Outside, the streets were beginning to fill with early morning traffic, but inside, time seemed to slow. She took a deep breath and thought about the man she was about to marry. He was waiting, getting ready in another room, probably just as nervous. In the other room, the groom moved with a quiet confidence, though his fingers were betraying his nerves. He had chosen every detail of the day carefully, the suit, the tie, even the little boutonniere on his lapel. He looked at himself in the mirror, then closed his eyes for a moment, picturing her walking down the aisle. He could almost hear the soft rustle of her dress, the way her eyes would light up when she saw him. He smiled, a small, almost shy smile. This was the happiest day of his life, but also somehow the most fragile. Outside, the air was warm but soft, the kind of early spring morning that carried both the promise of sunshine and the slight chill that made you pull your jacket tighter. Guests were beginning to arrive at the small hall where the ceremony would take place. Family members hugged, laughed, and whispered to each other. There was a sense of excitement in the air, a shared joy that made everyone's hearts feel lighter. People were snapping pictures, adjusting cameras and phones, trying to capture the beginning of something they knew would be remembered forever. Back inside, the bride's friends were fussing over her, joking about how she always managed to look so calm. She smiled at them, but inside a storm of emotion swirled. There was happiness, fear, hope, and a quiet sense of disbelief that this day had finally arrived. She thought about her parents sitting quietly in the corner, their eyes filled with tears that were just waiting to fall. They had watched her grow, supported her dreams, and now they were here to watch her take a step that would change her life forever. In the groom's room, the mood was slightly different. There was a calm tension, a focus that made every small movement feel important. His best friend helped him with his tie, offering words of encouragement, some serious, some funny, trying to break the tension. The groom laughed quietly at a joke, but it didn't reach his eyes completely. They were fixed on the day ahead, on the woman he was about to marry. Every detail mattered to him, not just the ceremony, but the life they were beginning together. The first moments of the day seemed to stretch longer than usual, each second holding more weight than it normally would. The air inside both rooms was filled with anticipation, almost electric. It was a calm that didn't feel quiet, a waiting that carried its own kind of noise. People outside were chatting, cars were moving slowly past the venue, and birds sang in the trees. Life felt normal, peaceful even, yet something about the day felt unusually fragile, like a delicate thread stretched just a little too far. Finally, the moment came to step into the next phase of the day. The bride took a deep breath and stood, the long dress flowing behind her like a wave. She could hear soft music starting, the kind that always made people smile and sometimes cry. Friends and family gathered around, giving one last smile or pat on the shoulder before the doors opened. In that moment, it felt like the world was holding its breath with her. Down the hallway, the groom waited near the end of the aisle, his hands loosely clasped in front of him. His heart beat faster as he watched the doors. Every person in the room seemed to fade into the background. All he could see was her, walking toward him with that nervous, radiant smile. The sunlight caught her hair, giving it a golden glow, and for a brief second it felt as if time had paused, the world reduced to just the two of them. The ceremony began with soft, measured words. The officiant spoke calmly, a reassuring presence in the midst of so much emotion. Vows were exchanged, promises were made, and with each word, the reality of what was happening sank deeper into their hearts. It was more than a ceremony. It was a moment that would define their lives forever. Every laugh, every tear, every shared glance carried weight and meaning. It was perfect, a scene painted with hope and love. Family members watched with quiet tears in their eyes. The parents of both the bride and groom had long dreamed of this moment, had imagined it countless times, yet nothing could have prepared them for the emotion of actually living it. Friends whispered to each other, remembering old times, recalling stories that made everyone laugh and cry at once. The energy in the room was a mix of celebration and reverence, a shared understanding that life had just shifted for everyone present. Outside, the weather was holding steady, the slight breeze carrying the scent of nearby flowers. Birds chirped quietly, a soft soundtrack to the day unfolding. People were taking pictures, adjusting the angle of cameras, trying to capture moments that would become memories. Little details, the gentle swaying of the curtains, the sun reflecting off the polished floor, the quiet smile of an elderly aunt made the day feel alive, vivid, almost magical. After the vows, the couple shared a quiet laugh, leaning their heads together in relief and joy. There were cheers, applause, and a few claps that carried more emotion than sound. It was as if everyone there understood the significance of the moment, the fragile beauty of life that could change in an instant. And yet, at that time, nothing seemed amiss. The world felt perfect, complete, and untouched by any kind of misfortune. As the ceremony concluded, the couple prepared to step outside. Guests began moving toward the doors, eager to celebrate, take pictures, and offer congratulations. The bride adjusted her dress one last time. The groom straightened his tie, and for a moment they held each other's hands, silently sharing everything they felt but couldn't put into words. There was laughter, soft whispers, and the quiet beating of countless hearts in unison. At that very moment, no one could imagine what would happen next. The sun continued to shine, the air remained calm, and life felt steady. Friends joked, relatives hugged, and children ran around, their laughter carrying through the open spaces. Every detail seemed ordinary, yet there was a tension just beneath the surface, a small detail unnoticed by anyone that would soon change everything. The bride and groom stepped outside, smiling at the crowd, waving, and soaking in the love around them. The sunlight kissed their faces, highlighting their happiness. Their hearts were full, minds buzzing with excitement for the day ahead. Every step they took felt like moving into a dream they had long wished for. Guests followed behind, capturing photographs, laughing at small mishaps, and exchanging words of love and hope. For a brief, perfect moment, everything was right. It was a day full of promise, joy, and love. Yet life, as it often does, had a plan none of them could foresee. A minor sound caught the attention of a few guests, something that seemed ordinary at first. A distant clatter, a brief flicker of movement. But the couple, unaware, kept walking hand in hand, the world around them alive with laughter and light. In that blissful ignorance, they moved closer to the point where fate would intervene. A quiet reminder that life can shift in an instant, even at its most beautiful moments, and with that, the story of the day, of the love, and of the fleeting perfection of life set the stage for the moments that would follow. Moments that would shock, confound, and leave an imprint on everyone who witnessed them. The couple had just stepped outside, the sunlight falling warmly on their faces. They smiled at each other, their hands still clasped tightly as though holding on to each other could make time stop. Guests followed behind, laughter and chatter filling the air. The excitement was contagious, everyone sharing in a joy that seemed untouchable. Yet life has a way of reminding you that nothing lasts forever. The small garden outside the hall had been decorated carefully, with flowers lining the path and colorful ribbons tied to the chairs. Children ran between the adults, their tiny feet kicking up dust and laughter as they chased each other around. The bride and groom walked slowly, soaking it all in, the smiles, the warm sunlight, and the feeling that nothing could go wrong. Their hearts were full and their minds were only on each other. Family members surrounded them, offering hugs and congratulations. The parents smiled through tears, holding back emotions that were too deep for words. The bride's mother adjusted a ribbon on her daughter's dress, whispering a small piece of advice about always supporting each other. The groom's father patted him on the shoulder, saying quietly, "Make every moment count." It was a moment that felt ordinary, yet was filled with weight and meaning, a gentle reminder of love and family. As the couple reached the edge of the garden, the officiant who had conducted the ceremony appeared beside them, smiling. He spoke softly, offering a few last words of encouragement and joy. The couple nodded, their faces glowing with happiness. Around them, guests took photos, capturing the moments that would be remembered for a lifetime. Cameras clicked, phones were raised, and everyone tried to hold on to the fleeting perfection of the day. For a few minutes, everything was as it should be. The air was calm, warm, and pleasant. Birds flitted between trees, singing softly. A gentle breeze stirred the ribbons and flowers, adding movement to the scene. It was easy to believe in that moment that nothing could ever touch them. The couple walked together, sharing soft words, occasional laughter, and long, lingering looks. Every smile was mirrored, every gesture matched, as if the world itself had paused to celebrate them. Then came a small detail, almost imperceptible at first. A faint smell drifted on the breeze, unnoticed by most, but just strong enough for a few guests to wrinkle their noses. Some thought it was a nearby flower. Others assumed it was someone cooking in a distant kitchen. No one paid much attention. The couple, laughing quietly at a joke shared between them, continued down the path. The moment seemed ordinary, filled with nothing but joy. Nearby, a few of the venue staff were moving quickly, arranging decorations, checking tables, and adjusting chairs. One of them paused for a moment, noticing something odd near the building, a small hissing sound almost like a soft whisper. They exchanged a glance, unsure if it was worth mentioning. Moments like this often pass without notice, easily dismissed in the rush and excitement of a wedding day. No one could have guessed the significance. The couple reached the edge of the garden where a small fountain sparkled in the sunlight. Guests gathered around to take photos, forming small groups. Laughter and chatter mingled with the sound of water trickling from the fountain. The bride leaned close to the groom, whispering something that made him chuckle. In that instant, they seemed untouchable, completely absorbed in each other. A few children ran past, almost colliding with the couple, but they laughed and bent down to straighten the little one's clothes. The moment was light, carefree, and perfect in its innocence. Parents watched, smiling, grateful for the joy that filled the day. It was easy to forget that life can change in an instant, that even a day that feels flawless can be fragile beneath the surface. The groom's best friend came forward, offering a small toast. He raised a glass of sparkling juice, his eyes glinting with warmth and humor. He spoke softly at first, then louder, joking about the couple's first meeting, the adventures they had shared, and the many more to come. Guests laughed, clinking glasses, feeling the connection of shared memories and love. The couple held hands tightly, eyes shining, absorbing every word. Some of the older relatives stepped back, watching quietly. They had seen many weddings and felt a deep connection to life's unpredictability. They noticed small details, a sound, a shadow, a movement, things that might mean nothing but sometimes carried more meaning than people realize. Yet the overwhelming joy made them shake off the unease, focusing instead on the laughter and happiness surrounding them. The bride and groom decided to move a little closer to the fountain, wanting a photo alone for just the two of them. They stepped carefully, the bride's dress brushing the ground, the groom's hand steadying her. They laughed when a slight gust of wind lifted a ribbon, catching them off guard. The photographer clicked away, capturing the laughter, the sunlight, and the connection that seemed to bind them completely. Behind them, a few guests noticed something small, like a flicker of light or a shadow moving oddly, but they dismissed it, assuming it was a trick of the sun. The couple didn't notice, their minds entirely on each other. They shared whispered jokes, recalled tiny details from the morning, and made promises in hushed tones. Every moment was a gentle reassurance, a reminder that they had each other now and always. As they posed for the photo, the photographer adjusted his camera, asking them to lean slightly closer, to tilt their heads together. The couple complied, smiling naturally, completely unaware that just a few steps away something was out of place. A small mechanical noise, faint and easy to miss, came from a corner of the building. The staff nearby looked at it, hesitated, then returned to their work, thinking it was probably nothing. Life has a way of hiding danger in plain sight. The couple laughed again, the sound pure and unguarded, echoing across the garden. A few guests joined them, snapping pictures from different angles. Children danced around, chasing each other in a carefree display of energy and innocence. The fountain glimmered in the sunlight, casting small rainbows on the faces of those nearby. It felt perfect, a scene from a dream. Then a soft breeze carried the faint smell again, slightly stronger this time. A few guests noticed, making a small comment, but it was easily dismissed in the joy of the moment. The couple continued, oblivious, moving toward a small bench to sit for a quick rest. They leaned into each other, holding hands, exchanging smiles and quiet words that made everyone watching wish they could capture that exact happiness forever. The photographer moved around, capturing candid moments, and the couple posed naturally, their ease and affection for each other shining through. Guests continued to watch, smiling, feeling a warmth that only comes from witnessing love that seems complete and true. It was easy to forget that life is unpredictable, that a single moment can change everything. Because in that garden, everything looked stable, safe, and perfect. For a few more minutes, the couple shared quiet stories with their friends, laughter bubbling up with each memory. The sunlight continued to fall warmly, the breeze ruffling hair and fabric. Birds sang from the trees, and the faint scent of flowers lingered in the air. Everything seemed ordinary, yet the tiniest details, the hissing sound, the flicker of shadow, the faint smell, were slowly aligning toward an unseen danger. The groom held his bride close, whispering how beautiful she looked, how lucky he felt. She smiled, her eyes shining, responding with words of love and laughter. For them, the world had narrowed down to just this perfect bubble of happiness, the people they cared about surrounding them, the warm sunlight above, and the love they held for each other. In the corner of the garden, one of the staff members finally walked over to check the faint noise that had been bothering him. He leaned closer, examining a small pipe that seemed to be leaking slightly. It hissed quietly, almost politely. Yet the danger it posed was hidden beneath the surface. He frowned, unsure if it needed attention immediately or if it could wait. Life sometimes gives warning signs, subtle and easy to overlook. Meanwhile, the couple continued to laugh and talk, their joy contagious. Guests joined in, children played nearby, and the air felt alive with celebration. No one noticed the small details that could have signaled disaster. The couple's happiness was so vivid, so complete, that it almost seemed to push aside any hint of danger. As the morning moved closer to midday, the guests began preparing for the next part of the celebration. Drinks were arranged, tables checked, and final touches made. The bride and groom decided to step back for a moment alone, walking hand in hand along the garden path. They spoke quietly, their conversation filled with hope, promises, and dreams. Every word strengthened the bond they already felt, creating a sense of security and completeness that nothing else could match. It was in that quiet, seemingly safe moment that life's fragility remained invisible. The air remained warm, the sunlight danced across the leaves, and the couple moved with the confidence that comes from love and trust. For everyone watching, it was a day of joy, laughter, and celebration, completely unaware that the perfect moments were already marching toward an ending no one could have imagined. The couple stepped out of the hall, holding hands tightly, their faces glowing with happiness. The morning sun shone warmly over the garden, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh flowers. Guests followed behind them, laughing, chatting, and snapping pictures to capture the moment. The excitement was everywhere, a shared joy that seemed to touch everyone present. For the bride and groom, the world had narrowed down to just each other, a private bubble of love and anticipation. They walked slowly down the flower-lined path, smiling at family members and friends. Their parents were nearby, proud and teary-eyed, offering quiet words of encouragement and love. The bride's mother brushed a loose strand of hair from her daughter's face and whispered softly, "This is your day, cherish every second." The groom's father patted him on the shoulder, saying quietly, "Hold her close, and never let go." These small gestures, simple and tender, filled the moment with warmth and intimacy. Children ran ahead, their tiny feet kicking up dust as they chased each other. Their laughter echoed in the air, blending with the murmur of adults talking and the gentle rustle of leaves in the trees. Guests paused occasionally to take photos, capturing smiles, hugs, and stolen moments of joy. It was easy to believe that everything was perfect, that life had paused in this magical, fleeting moment just for them. The couple paused near a small fountain, its water sparkling in the sunlight. They leaned into each other, laughing quietly at a private joke while the photographer moved around, capturing their expressions. Every glance, every touch was a reminder of the love they shared and the life they were beginning together. In those moments, nothing else mattered. Yet beneath the surface, subtle signs began to appear, small details unnoticed by most. A faint, unusual smell lingered in the air. Some guests noticed it briefly, made a small comment, and quickly dismissed it. assuming it was a nearby flower or a stray whiff from the kitchen. A soft, almost imperceptible hissing sound came from the edge of the building. A staff member noticed it, paused, and looked closer. For a moment it seemed harmless, but it was a warning no one could have understood at the time. The couple continued along the path, oblivious to these faint signs. Their hands were intertwined, their fingers locked together as if holding on to each other could make the world pause. They spoke softly to each other, their voices filled with love, laughter, and a hint of nervous excitement. It was a rare kind of happiness, the kind that feels so complete it makes everything else fade away. Family members gathered around, offering hugs and quiet words of congratulations. The parents smiled through tears, feeling a mix of pride, joy, and an unspoken fear that this moment would pass too quickly. They had dreamed of this day for years, imagined it countless times, but the reality was more beautiful than they had ever pictured. Friends and relatives joined in, sharing stories, laughing at memories, and celebrating the union of two lives that seemed perfectly matched. The groom's best friend stepped forward with a small toast, raising a glass of sparkling juice. He spoke of the couple's first meeting, their shared adventures, and the many dreams they had yet to fulfill. Guests laughed and cheered, clinking glasses and soaking in the warmth of the moment. The couple held hands tightly, eyes shining, listening to the words that painted their love in a new, vivid light. As the couple moved toward a shaded area near the fountain, they stopped to take a moment alone. The crowd gave them space, sensing the intimacy of the moment. The bride rested her head on the groom's shoulder, and he leaned in, whispering words of love and excitement. They laughed softly, feeling the weight of the day but also the exhilaration of starting a new life together. Every second felt precious, every glance meaningful. Nearby, the faint hissing sound became slightly stronger. A staff member walked over to investigate, leaning close to a small pipe near the building. He frowned as he noticed a tiny leak. The sound was soft, almost polite, but it carried danger. He hesitated, unsure if it needed immediate attention or if it could wait. In the chaos of a wedding day, small details like this often go unnoticed or ignored. Life sometimes hides risk in plain sight, quietly waiting for the moment to strike. Meanwhile, the couple's friends gathered around for a group photo. Laughter filled the air as everyone tried to arrange themselves in the perfect positions. Children ran in and out of the frame, adding an unpredictable joy to the picture. The photographer directed them with patience, clicking multiple times to capture the perfect shot. Every smile was genuine, every laugh heartfelt. For a moment it felt as though nothing could disrupt the beauty of the day. The bride and groom moved slightly away from the group, talking quietly to each other. They shared memories from the morning, whispered jokes, and made promises in hushed tones. Their hands remained tightly clasped, a physical connection that reflected the bond of trust and love between them. Every word, every touch, reinforced the sense of safety and happiness they felt. Guests continued to take photos, children played, and relatives exchanged quiet words. The atmosphere was warm, filled with love and laughter. Yet there was an undercurrent of tension, subtle and easy to overlook. The faint smell in the air lingered, growing just a little stronger. A few guests noticed it again, commented softly, but the joy of the day made them dismiss it. It was easy to focus on happiness and ignore anything that threatened to disturb it. The couple approached a small seating area near the fountain, taking a brief rest. They leaned into each other, their foreheads touching lightly, exchanging smiles and quiet words of affection. Every laugh, every glance was captured by the photographer, preserving the magic of the day. The sun continued to shine warmly, casting soft shadows and highlighting the beauty of the scene. A staff member finally decided to take action, moving closer to the pipe that had been leaking. He noticed the hissing sound was not coming from the wind or a stray draft. Something was wrong, and he hesitated, unsure how to handle it without alarming the guests. Meanwhile, the couple remained unaware, their minds completely absorbed in each other. They laughed, whispered, and planned the next steps of the day, completely oblivious to the small danger creeping closer. The guests began moving toward a larger area prepared for lunch and celebrations. Tables were decorated with flowers, drinks arranged, and small gifts for the guests placed carefully. Laughter and chatter filled the air, blending with the soft sound of water from the fountain. It seemed like the day would continue without interruption, the joy unbroken. The bride and groom walked slowly toward the tables, stopping occasionally to wave at friends or bend down to adjust a child's outfit. Every small act of care reflected their love for each other and for those around them. It was a day full of connection, joy, and shared happiness. Guests smiled, feeling the warmth and love radiating from the couple. The small, unnoticed danger continued to build quietly. The hissing sound grew slightly louder, though still soft enough to be missed by most. A few guests glanced in the direction of the noise, puzzled but quickly returned to the celebration. Life has a way of presenting risk in the most ordinary ways, hiding danger behind laughter and sunlight. The couple sat at a small table, their hands intertwined, talking quietly. They shared dreams, hopes, and the excitement of the future. Every glance was filled with affection, every word infused with love. For them, the world had narrowed to just these moments, the joy around them and the certainty of being together. Nearby, the staff member finally alerted the venue manager, quietly pointing out the issue with the pipe. The manager nodded, deciding to investigate further. In the flurry of a wedding day, it seemed manageable, a small problem easily fixed. No one could imagine how it would unfold, how the ordinary could turn tragic in the blink of an eye. As the couple laughed at a story shared by a friend, a slight shift occurred. A distant sound, almost imperceptible, reached the guests' ears. A brief, soft pop that seemed meaningless at first. Children continued to play, guests continued to smile, and the couple remained unaware, lost in their own world. The day still felt perfect, but the faint warning signs were slowly converging toward a moment that would change everything. The bride and groom stood again, ready to walk a little further, to join the rest of the celebration. Their hands were still tightly clasped, their eyes meeting in a silent conversation that spoke volumes. They laughed softly, unaware of the danger creeping closer. Guests followed behind, chatting and smiling, completely absorbed in the joy of the day. The staff moved quietly, trying to address the issue with the pipe. It seemed manageable, almost insignificant. Life has a way of hiding the impact of small details, making ordinary problems seem harmless until it is too late. The couple continued forward, their hearts full, their minds light, and their world seemingly perfect. For a few more minutes, everything remained normal. Laughter, conversation, and the sound of the fountain filled the air. Children ran, parents watched, and friends continued taking photos. The couple shared private smiles and whispered words, lost in their own happiness. And yet, beneath the laughter and light, the faint hissing sound grew, unnoticed by those who mattered most. The day was still perfect, the couple still radiant, and the garden still alive with joy. It was easy to forget that life can change in an instant, that even the most beautiful moments are fragile. For the bride and groom, nothing seemed amiss. They were holding on to each other, feeling the warmth, love, and security that only true connection can bring. But life has a way of turning ordinary days into stories no one could imagine. The couple had just moved closer to the fountain, their hands tightly clasped, smiles still bright. The laughter of children and the chatter of guests seemed to fill every corner of the garden, creating a sense of safety and celebration. The bride rested her head lightly on the groom's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his presence, the steady beat of his heart beneath her ear. It was a comforting, grounding feeling, the kind that makes you forget the world outside, the kind that convinces you that nothing bad could ever touch you in a moment like this. They walked slowly toward a shaded bench near the fountain, wanting a quiet moment alone. Guests stepped back respectfully, sensing the intimacy, leaving the couple to their private bubble of happiness. The photographer continued to click softly in the background, capturing candid expressions of love, joy, and togetherness. Every glance, every touch felt meaningful, a promise without words. Unseen by most, a faint hissing sound continued near the edge of the building. It had grown slightly stronger, more persistent, but it was subtle enough that only someone paying close attention could notice it. The staff member who had been keeping an eye on it finally decided to move closer, crouching and inspecting the small pipe that had been leaking. The sound was a warning, quiet but urgent, yet in the excitement and chaos of the wedding, it seemed like a small, manageable problem. The couple sat on the bench, laughing softly as they shared a memory from their morning. They held each other close, leaning in so their foreheads touched. The groom whispered something playful, and the bride laughed, covering her mouth with her hand, her eyes sparkling in the sunlight. It was the kind of moment that felt infinite, as if time itself had stopped to let them enjoy it. Around them, the world seemed calm, yet the faint hiss grew louder, unnoticed by those whose attention mattered most. Guests were chatting nearby, sharing jokes, adjusting dresses, and taking photographs. Children ran in small circles, their laughter adding a lively soundtrack to the scene. Parents smiled, moved by the innocence and joy surrounding them. Friends offered small gifts, notes, and hugs, each action filled with love and care. Everything seemed ordinary, yet life has a way of hiding danger in plain sight, waiting for a single spark to change everything. The staff member, crouched near the pipe, frowned. He could see a small leak, and the hiss was now accompanied by a faint odor in the air. He hesitated, unsure if he should call the manager or attempt to fix it quietly. The momentary indecision felt small, insignificant, but the consequences of delay were invisible, lurking just beneath the surface. Meanwhile, the couple remained blissfully unaware, absorbed in each other's presence. The bride leaned back slightly on the bench, her hand still entwined with the groom's. "I can't believe this day is finally here," she said softly, her voice filled with wonder. "It feels like a dream." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It does," he replied, "and I want to remember every second." They laughed again, the sound soft but full of life, echoing across the garden. A few guests began moving toward the nearby tables, preparing for the next part of the celebration. Drinks were arranged, chairs adjusted, and flowers carefully positioned. Everything was moving smoothly, seamlessly, almost as if the day was orchestrated perfectly. But life has a habit of hiding danger beneath beauty, and the faint hissing continued. A quiet reminder that the ordinary can quickly become extraordinary in its consequences. Suddenly, a small pop echoed from near the building, subtle enough that only a few guests heard it. Some glanced over, puzzled, but quickly returned to their conversations, dismissing it as something minor. The couple continued to sit unaware, their focus entirely on each other. They shared whispered jokes, talked about the honeymoon, and imagined their first night as a married couple. The world outside seemed distant, irrelevant. The staff member, finally realizing the potential danger, called the venue manager quietly. The manager hurried over, looking concerned as he examined the pipe. He noticed a faint leak, a soft hiss, and an odor in the air that had become stronger. His face went pale, and he motioned for another staff member to help. In a few hurried movements, they tried to close a valve and stop the leak, but the damage had already begun. Back at the bench, the couple stood, deciding to walk a little closer to the tables. Their hands were still tightly clasped, their fingers locked as if holding on to each other could hold back the world. They smiled at each other, eyes glimmering, hearts racing with love and excitement. Every movement was gentle, careful, and deliberate, as though the day itself had slowed to match the rhythm of their steps. The faint hissing sound, now unmistakable, filled the background, unnoticed by the couple but causing concern for those who knew. Guests continued to laugh. Children ran and relatives took pictures, oblivious to the danger creeping silently behind the scenes. Life seemed perfect, yet the unseen danger was growing stronger, moving closer with every passing second. Then it happened. A small spark, entirely accidental, met the gas leaking from the pipe. The sound was a soft pop at first, almost drowned out by laughter and conversation. The bride and groom, still walking hand in hand, froze for a brief moment, instinctively turning toward the sound. Guests gasped, some pointing, others trying to make sense of what they were hearing. In the blink of an eye, what had been ordinary and safe turned into chaos. The explosion was sudden and devastating. A bright flash filled the air, accompanied by a roar that drowned out everything else. Guests screamed, running in all directions, trying to find safety. The bride and groom were thrown to the ground, the force of the blast knocking them apart. For a moment, the world seemed to move in slow motion, as if time itself had slowed to show the horror of what had just happened. The air was filled with dust, smoke, and a terrible heat that made breathing difficult. Guests were shouting, crying, some trying desperately to reach the couple. Parents ran forward, pushing through chaos, hoping to find their children safe. The photographer, who had been capturing moments of joy just minutes ago, could barely move, stunned by the sudden turn of events. Everything had changed in an instant. Emergency services arrived within minutes, but in that brief time, the devastation had already taken its toll. Firefighters and paramedics worked frantically to reach the injured, their faces set with determination and fear. Guests watched in disbelief, some clutching each other, others holding children close. The garden, moments ago filled with laughter and celebration, was now a scene of confusion, smoke, and despair. The couple had been the center of the blast. Guests called their names, hoping, praying, but the realization quickly set in that the worst had happened. Parents collapsed into each other's arms, unable to comprehend how a day that had begun with so much love could end in tragedy. Friends cried openly, some unable to speak, some frantically trying to offer help. The world felt hollow, empty, as if life itself had paused in shock. Emergency workers moved quickly, pulling people from debris, checking vital signs, and doing everything possible to save lives. The sound of sirens added to the chaos, a harsh reminder that life had shifted from celebration to survival. Guests were evacuated to safer areas, their faces pale, their hands shaking. Children clung to parents, not understanding fully but sensing the fear and confusion around them. Amid the chaos, the faint smell that had been ignored earlier became a grim reminder of the invisible danger that had been present all along. What had seemed insignificant, a soft hiss, a minor leak, had turned into something fatal. The couple's love, their laughter, their whispered promises, had been interrupted in the cruelest way imaginable. As paramedics worked tirelessly, the guests tried to make sense of what had happened. Some prayed, some cried silently, some shouted in anger at the unfairness of it all. The garden, once a place of joy, had become a place of shock and grief. The memories of smiles, laughter, and love were now mingled with the horror of loss, a combination that seemed impossible to reconcile. For the bride and groom, the moments that had been filled with love and hope ended tragically. Their lives cut short just 30 minutes after they had pledged their hearts to each other. Families, friends, and everyone present were left to cope with the sudden, unimaginable loss. The day that had promised so much joy became a day that no one could ever forget, marked by tragedy and sorrow. In the midst of chaos, there were stories of heroism, guests rushing to help, staff trying desperately to contain damage, emergency workers fighting against time. Yet even as people acted with courage, the reality of the loss was undeniable. The couple so full of life and love just moments ago were gone. The world for everyone present had changed forever in an instant. The explosion had left the garden in chaos, a scene of devastation and disbelief. Smoke hung in the air, mixing with the faint smell of burned gas and flowers. Guests were scattered, some in shock, others running to find loved ones. Parents clutched children tightly, their faces pale, eyes wide with fear. The joyful laughter of the morning had vanished, replaced by cries, whispers, and the sharp sound of sirens approaching. The day that had begun so perfectly had ended in tragedy, and the world of everyone present had changed in an instant. Emergency responders moved swiftly through the garden, assessing the scene and prioritizing the injured. Firefighters sprayed water to control small fires that had ignited near decorations, while paramedics tended to the wounded. People who had moments before been celebrating were now assisting wherever they could, lifting debris, comforting those in shock, and offering water or blankets. The energy of joy had turned into a tense, urgent effort to save lives. Families who had gathered to celebrate were now facing the unimaginable. The parents of the couple were led to a quieter area, sitting in stunned silence as friends and relatives tried to comfort them. Words seemed meaningless in the face of what had just occurred. They held each other tightly, trembling, unable to process the enormity of the loss. Friends and distant relatives hovered nearby, tears streaming down their faces, whispering assurances that offered little solace. The laughter and joy of earlier hours felt like a distant memory, almost unreal in comparison to the pain of this moment. Authorities arrived shortly after, taking control of the scene. Police officers cordoned off the area, guiding guests to safety while investigators began examining the site. They moved carefully, looking for evidence and trying to understand the chain of events that had led to the tragedy. The garden, once a picture of beauty and celebration, had become a scene of meticulous examination. Every detail scrutinized for answers. Investigators spoke to witnesses, their calm voices carrying a weight of authority that contrasted with the chaos around them. Guests recounted the moments leading up to the explosion, the laughter, the whispered words, the fleeting observations of strange sounds or odors. Each account was vital, each memory a piece of the puzzle that needed to be assembled to understand how the day had turned deadly so suddenly. Medical examiners worked quietly but efficiently, documenting what had happened and attending to the victims. They moved with a precision that came from experience, their faces calm but somber. The reality of the situation, the death of two young people just moments after pledging their lives to each other, was almost unbearable. Yet they faced it with professionalism and care. Families were given space to grieve, but no one could escape the stark truth. As the investigation progressed, the cause of the explosion became clearer. A gas leak from a faulty pipe had gone unnoticed until the spark ignited it, turning a small, seemingly insignificant problem into a deadly force. Authorities explained that the leak had been slow, almost imperceptible, giving no obvious warning until it was too late. Staff who had been aware of the sound and odor had acted, but there was little that could be done once the gas had spread. It was a reminder of how fragile life can be, how the smallest oversight can lead to consequences beyond imagination. The family struggled with anger, confusion, and grief. "How could this happen?" whispered one relative, voice breaking. Another shook their head, tears streaming down their face. Friends and neighbors offered comfort, but words felt inadequate. The loss was total, the suddenness overwhelming. People replayed moments in their minds, the laughter, the smiles, the hand-holding, and felt the weight of what had been lost. Memories that had been joyful now carried a sharp edge, a painful reminder of life's unpredictability. Investigators continued their work, examining every detail of the venue. They measured distances, checked the condition of the pipes, and reviewed statements from staff and witnesses. Each piece of evidence was a clue, a key to understanding how a perfect day could end in such tragedy. Slowly, the story emerged. A combination of small errors, unnoticed warning signs, and a spark had led to the explosion that claimed the lives of the newlyweds. It was a chain of events almost impossible to imagine, but tragically real. Meanwhile, friends and family tried to honor the couple in small ways, holding each other close and sharing stories. They remembered the smiles, the whispered words, and the laughter that had filled the garden just minutes before. Each memory was a way to hold on to what had been lost, a fragile thread connecting the present grief to past joy. People wrote messages of love and remembrance, capturing the essence of the couple's short but beautiful life together. The local community reacted with shock and sorrow. News of the tragedy spread quickly, and neighbors and friends who could not attend gathered to offer support. Candles were lit, flowers placed at memorials, and small gatherings were held to honor the lives lost. The couple's story became a reminder to the community of the fragility of life and the importance of treasuring each moment. Psychologists and counselors were brought in to help those affected cope with the trauma. Guests, staff, and family members were encouraged to talk, to process the shock and grief with guidance. Many struggled to understand how a day that had begun with so much love and joy could end in death. Sessions were emotional, filled with tears, memories, and questions that had no immediate answers. Yet slowly, people began to find ways to cope, finding strength in shared grief and the stories of love that the couple had left behind. The investigation continued over the following days. Experts examined the pipe, the spark, and the ventilation system. They determined that the accident had been entirely preventable if certain safety checks had been properly conducted. While this knowledge offered little comfort to the grieving families, it provided a sense of closure, an understanding that the tragedy had not been random, but the result of oversight and unfortunate circumstance. Memorial services were held for the couple, drawing friends, family, and community members. People shared stories of the love the couple had shown, their kindness, and the joy they had brought into the lives of others. Tears flowed freely, and laughter sometimes emerged in memories of funny or heartwarming moments. It was a way to celebrate their lives, even in the midst of sorrow. Photographs, videos, and messages became treasured keepsakes, capturing the beauty of the day before the tragedy. Each image told a story, a reminder of the happiness, love, and dreams that had existed. Families held these items close, finding solace in the memories, even as they struggled with the pain of loss. In the weeks that followed, authorities issued recommendations to prevent similar accidents in the future. Safety protocols were reviewed, inspections conducted, and awareness raised about potential hazards in public and private spaces. While these measures could not bring back the lives lost, they served as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and care, of how fragile moments can be and how quickly they can change. Friends and relatives tried to return to daily life, but the shadow of the tragedy lingered. Every conversation, every gathering carried the memory of that day, the shock of what had happened, and the grief that followed. They honored the couple by continuing traditions the couple had cherished, by remembering the laughter and love, and by ensuring that their story was told. The community came together in acts of kindness, offering support to the families, contributing to memorials, and sharing stories of the couple's life. This collective effort helped to ease the pain slightly, providing a sense of unity and shared compassion. People remembered that life is fragile, but that love, memories, and acts of care can endure beyond the moments we lose. Months later, the families established small scholarships and charitable acts in the couple's name, ensuring that their memory would continue to inspire kindness and hope. These gestures served as reminders that even in the face of tragedy, life could be honored, love remembered, and lessons learned. The story of the Newlyweds, cut short in the most unexpected way, became a lasting reminder of joy, fragility, and the enduring impact of love. The investigation concluded, confirming the cause of the accident and offering closure to the families. While nothing could undo the pain, the knowledge allowed them to begin the slow process of healing. The story of the couple, their love, and the tragedy that ended their lives so suddenly became a lesson for everyone. That joy and sorrow often exist side by side, and that even the smallest details can have profound consequences. Through tears and shared stories, laughter remembered and hugs given, the memory of the couple lived on. Friends, family, and the community continued to honor them, keeping their presence alive in hearts and minds. Life, fragile as it is, continued, carrying with it the echoes of love, the lessons of safety, and the understanding that moments, both happy and tragic, shape the way people live and care for each other. The days after the tragedy were heavy with grief. The families of the couple were surrounded by support from friends, relatives, and even strangers who had learned of the incident. Yet, no amount of comfort could completely ease the emptiness they felt. Their homes were quiet, the absence of laughter and voices that had once filled the space a constant reminder of the loss. Every photograph, every memento held the weight of memory, both precious and painful. The couple's friends tried to support each other, gathering to share stories and memories of the joyful day that had been cut short. They spoke of the way the couple laughed together, how their eyes would light up when they held hands, and how they had made everyone around them feel happy. In these gatherings, laughter would sometimes bubble up amid tears, small bursts of relief in the midst of sorrow. They remembered the promises whispered, the dreams spoken aloud, and the way the couple had looked at each other as if the world belonged only to them. Counselors and therapists worked with the grieving families, helping them process the suddenness of the loss. It was difficult for anyone to understand how a day that began with so much love could end in such devastation. The professionals guided them through their emotions, helping them talk openly about fear, anger, and sorrow. They encouraged the families to focus on the love and memories, even as the pain of absence remained raw and constant. News outlets continued to cover the incident, focusing on the causes and the response. Many people were shocked to learn that a tiny leak and a small spark could lead to such devastation. Experts discussed safety precautions, the importance of checking gas lines and equipment, and the unseen risks that exist in even the most ordinary settings. While this information offered little solace to those who had lost loved ones, it provided a measure of understanding, a way to make sense of what had seemed impossible. Memorials began to appear in different parts of the community. Candles were lit, flowers placed in remembrance, and small gatherings held to honor the lives of the young couple. Friends and family left notes, messages, and photos, celebrating the love they had witnessed and shared. These acts of remembrance gave people a sense of connection, a way to express grief while honoring the memory of the couple. Each act was a tribute, a way to ensure that the couple's brief time together would not be forgotten. The families decided to create lasting tributes in the couple's name. Scholarships were established to support students pursuing their dreams, inspired by the young couple's hopes for the future. Charitable acts were carried out in their memory, giving to those in need and spreading kindness in ways the couple themselves would have admired. These actions helped transform sorrow into purpose, giving the grief a sense of meaning beyond the immediate loss. Friends gathered to preserve the memories in other ways as well. Photographs from the wedding, videos of moments of laughter, and written memories were collected into albums and journals. Every smile, every tender look, every whispered word became a reminder of the love that had existed, small anchors to hold on to amid the storm of sadness. People read the memories aloud during gatherings, laughed where they could, and cried where the pain was too great to hold back. The community, deeply affected by the tragedy, worked together to provide support. Neighbors checked in on one another, offered meals, and assisted in daily life for those overwhelmed by grief. Churches, community centers, and local groups organized sessions to help people talk through emotions, share memories, and find solace in each other's presence. The tragedy had left a scar, but it had also revealed the strength and compassion of the people around them. Investigations had concluded, confirming the cause of the explosion. While this knowledge did not bring back the couple, it helped provide a measure of closure. Families could understand the sequence of events, the small errors that led to disaster, and the ways in which it might have been prevented. The understanding did not erase pain, but it allowed them to begin the slow process of moving forward, carrying the memory of the couple with them in a more conscious, reflective way. Friends spoke often of the love they had witnessed between the couple. They recalled quiet moments where the bride rested her head on the groom's shoulder, the playful glances shared across the garden, and the unspoken understanding that seemed to exist between them. These memories became a source of comfort, a way to keep the couple present in everyday life. Even in the midst of sorrow, the love they had shown served as an example of joy, care, and devotion. Time moved slowly for the families. Days were filled with reminders of the tragedy, from photographs to personal belongings, yet each day also offered small opportunities for healing. Some found solace in routine, small walks, or conversations with loved ones. Others expressed their emotions through writing, art, or acts of service, channeling grief into something tangible. Each small step was a way to honor the couple, a means of keeping their spirit alive while adjusting to life without them. The broader community continued to reflect on the event. Safety measures were reviewed, regulations strengthened, and awareness raised about potential risks in everyday spaces. In public discussions, the incident became a case study, a reminder of the fragility of life and the need for vigilance. While these measures could never undo the past, they served as a preventive effort to ensure that similar tragedies could be avoided in the future. Friends and family also created small traditions to honor the couple. On the anniversary of the wedding, gatherings were held to celebrate love, kindness, and the moments shared with them. Candles were lit, flowers placed in their memory, and stories told aloud. These traditions became a way to keep the couple's presence alive in a positive, hopeful manner, reminding everyone that while life is fragile, love and memory endure. In quiet moments, families would sit and reflect. They spoke softly to one another, sharing both sorrow and cherished memories. Conversations about dreams the couple had held, plans they had made, and the laughter they had shared provided comfort. Tears flowed, but so did gratitude, for the time they had been given, for the love they had witnessed, and for the community that supported them through the pain. Counselors encouraged the families to focus on healing in small ways. Some took up activities the couple had enjoyed, keeping their memory alive through shared interests. Others focused on helping others, inspired by the compassion and love the couple had shown. Gradually, the sharp pain of loss softened, replaced by a bittersweet remembrance that allowed for joy to coexist with sorrow. The legacy of the couple continued to grow. Friends carried on projects and charitable works in their name, ensuring that the impact of their brief lives extended far beyond the garden where the tragedy occurred. Schools and community organizations established scholarships and grants, creating opportunities for others in honor of the young couple's dreams. Each act of kindness, each achievement, became a part of the story they had left behind. Community gatherings kept the memory alive. Stories of the couple's love, humor, and care were shared with new friends and neighbors, ensuring that their lives remained part of the shared consciousness. Even those who had not known them personally felt the weight of their story, learning lessons about love, loss, and the fragility of life. Their story became both a caution and an inspiration, a reminder that life can change in an instant, and that love should be cherished every day. In the homes of those who had known them, photographs remained prominently displayed, A smile, a hand held, or a shared look from the wedding day served as a reminder of the lives that had been so briefly but beautifully intertwined. Every visitor was reminded of the couple's love, the joy they had spread, and the lessons their loss had taught. The memory was alive, tangible, and enduring. As months passed, grief evolved. It softened, transforming into a quiet reflection rather than a sharp pain. Families could speak of the couple without breaking down, recounting stories with smiles and tears mingled together. Friends continued to gather, honoring anniversaries and moments the couple had cherished. Life moved forward, carrying with it the memory of love, the awareness of fragility, and the inspiration to treasure every day. Though their lives had been tragically cut short, the couple's impact endured. Their love had been real, visible, and profound. The way they cared for each other, the way they made those around them feel included and cherished, and the joy they had radiated left a lasting impression. Families, friends, and the community carried this forward, ensuring that their story would not be forgotten. The anniversary of the wedding became a day of remembrance. Candles were lit, flowers placed, and memories shared. Stories of the couple's laughter, plans, and love filled the air, a bittersweet celebration of life that had ended too soon. Friends and family gathered to honor them, finding comfort in shared grief and collective memory. The day was not just a reminder of loss, but a celebration of love, resilience, and human connection. In the end, the story of the couple became more than tragedy. It became a testament to the power of love, the fragility of life, and the enduring impact of kindness and connection. Families and friends learned to live with the absence, finding meaning in remembrance, service, and the small ways love continues beyond life. The memory of the couple lived on, a guiding light for those who had loved them and those who would never forget the joy and beauty they had brought into the world. However briefly, through sorrow and remembrance, the couple's legacy became a force for good. Scholarships, acts of charity, and community traditions ensured that their story continued to inspire and guide. Though the wedding had ended in tragedy, the love they shared and the lives they touched became eternal. The world, forever changed by their brief presence, carried forward the lessons of love, joy, and the fragility of life, honoring their memory in ways that transcended sorrow and embraced hope.